The radical left, Soros-backed New York State Attorney General Letitia James, a disaster.
My response is it's baseless. Listen, Donald Trump is on a revenge tour, and he finally got up to the J's. And so it's my time.
Woke and weird Attorney General of New York State, Letitia James, is in a lot of trouble. And she's lawyering way up in a very, very big way. Letitia James, of course, went after President Trump in a totally bogus case. We'll get to that. And she also likes to spend her free time hanging around drag queens and children. A decade ago or so, you could be arrested for that. Now it's part of a campaign, huh? How about that? Yeah, she has hired Abbe Lowell, that man right there, because she's in trouble. Now, we'll get to, again, this particulars about why, but remember what brought her to the public eye, the public fore, right? She hassled President Trump.
I will not bow. I will not break. I will not bend. I will, again, march into this office with all of the individuals who stand by my side, all 800 attorneys, again, defending the Constitution, defending the rule of law.
Big Tish James pulling out the big guns and hiring Hunter Biden's former lawyer, Abbe Lowell, to defend the fraud allegation she's now facing. Talk about hypocrisy at its finest. The same thing she tried to go after President Trump, the charges she is now facing, that she inflated her wealth and more.
And also comparing their personal financial disclosures to New York State to the property records, the public property records.
What did you uncover?
Okay, with Tish James, there was a few things that were uncovered. First, each one of her financial disclosures to New York State was false. She omitted mortgages from her disclosures, and she even omitted a property from her disclosures. The second thing I learned is that she has mortgages listed on her financial disclosures that do not appear in the property records. It's strange. Third thing I learned is that on one property in Virginia, she has about $510,000 in mortgages, but she lists the valuation of only $100,000 to $150,000. Her words, not mine. Another thing that I learned was that Tish James has a property in Brooklyn that she lists as 4 units, but it's 5 units under the certificate of occupancy. Yesterday, I visited the property with another researcher, Joel Gilbert. We looked at the doorbells. There's 5 doorbells on the premises. I checked the Con Ed records. There's 5 electrical units for each of the things. You can't have a 5-unit building and then occupy 2 units and call it a 4-unit building. I couldn't have dreamed of a more incompetent response that he made in reference to the DOJ, to the referral to the DOJ.
Yeah.
Okay. He's saying, well, it was always 4 units on her Brooklyn property. I don't care if it was 2 units, okay? The fact is that the certificate of occupancy says it's 5 units. And then he points to a document that reflects the false information, her HAMP application.
And now she wants us taxpayers to foot the bill for her lawyers. She's saying that this is all a political witch hunt.
So is she really there? Or who's filing these complaints in the Department of Buildings over peeling paint? Or is there sublets, illegal sublets? I don't know. But these are the things that every time we dig, every time we think we reach the bottom of it, we find a new bottom.
Now, it turns out that Letitia James should have been paying a bit more attention to her. Well, she's a slumlord, it looks like. She owns a townhouse, has owned it for a number of years, and has racked up all kinds of complaints. And these are very serious complaints. Bed bugs, all right? That's horrific. Also, peeling paint. That's also it's a big deal. Now, if you don't think that's a big deal, right? You know, bed bugs, peeling paint, doesn't everybody No. Actually, she went around bragging about a settlement that she achieved from a landlord, right? Attorney General secures $6.5 million from one of New York City's worst landlords. Interesting. All right, now remember that. It was only on her website, by the way. You had to go looking for it. This is the former U.S. Attorney Damian Williams, all right? Damian Williams is a guy with a lot of ambition. He also was good friends with Merrick Garland, our least favorite Attorney General ever. So bed bugs and peeling paint, it is a very big deal. I mean, they made a federal case out of it for that firm that got sued for $6.5 million.
Millions of people face health threats from environmental hazards in the home, including many New Yorkers. One key problem is lead paint in older buildings. Lead is toxic, especially to children, and when young kids breathe lead dust or put peeling lead paint in their mouths, they can face lifelong health consequences, like neurological problems and learning disabilities.
Wow. So that could be happening to the children who live in Letitia James's building. And bed bugs? Bed bugs too. What about that, Mr. U.S. Attorney?
Other unsafe housing conditions, like mold growing on walls or uncontrolled pests, can also impact tenants' health.
Pests, bed bugs. This is a federal case. This is a huge deal. And it's in addition to a lot of other irregularities that we'll get to. Tell me a little bit more there, U.S. Attorney Williams.
I am proud to announce today that this office, with our federal partners at the EPA, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and HUD Office of the Inspector General, joined by the New York State Attorney General.
Joined by the New York State Attorney General. The New York State Attorney General is part of this, right? Part of the case about the pests and about the peeling paint. But she's not there for some reason. One more.
Has settled a lawsuit against a major New York City landlord, Wilmore Management, LLC.
Well, that's the thing that Letitia James was bragging about on her website. But she did not go to the press conference. Why is that?
It was a very productive week. I've gone over to the DOJ and the White House several times during my vice reign here in D.C. And I would say this: there are a lot of people who are concerned about what Pam Bondi is doing or not doing at the DOJ. I think the Epstein stuff got her tripped up. I would just say to your audience, justice is coming. I promise you, justice is coming. I went and met with the Attorney General Pam Bondi one-on-one. I met with her team in the Attorney General's office. I met with Todd Blanche. I met with Emil Bove. Todd Blanche is the Deputy Attorney General. I met with Emil Bove, who is his number two, the number two to the number two, the most powerful unknown position in the government. I met with Chad Mizell, the acting number three, and Pam's chief of staff. I met with Stanley Woodward. I met with Gail Slater. Harmeet Dillon's over there. Kash Patel's over there. Dan Bongino's over there. They're starting to fire on all cylinders. I promise you this. This is normal during a startup phase as you're getting people confirmed and staffed up. You're not going to have immediate results, but they've gotten a lot accomplished already publicly, for example, just firing a lot of the deep state, getting rid of these bad actors, chasing them out of the Southern District of New York, chasing them out of Main Justice. They've closed a lot of these cases. They're opening cases. They're working on this. And I promise you that justice is coming. They're working with the FBI. They're working with these other law enforcement agencies. They're working with these agency heads. They're working with the DOJ leadership. Justice is definitely coming. I know it's coming. But remember, I think I told Big Tish that her fat ass may be going to prison. And wow, who knew that we would have been Nostradamus that day? Because now there is pretty compelling evidence that Big Tish, oh, there you go, I dare you. There was pretty compelling evidence that Big Tish James lied on a Virginia mortgage application. She said it was her primary residence, even though she's the New York Attorney General, so she can get a more favorable loan agreement in Virginia. And lo and behold, she was probably lying. And lo and behold, that's mortgage fraud. And lo and behold, there are prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia who will probably indict Tish James. I mean, it's pretty compelling evidence. And she's the one, remember, who brought the bogus fraud charge against, civil fraud charge against President Trump for supposedly duping Wall Street banks, sophisticated Wall Street banks, paying them on time as agreed in full with interest. And Tish James said that Trump lied about the value of Mar-a-Lago. She said that Trump said Mar-a-Lago was worth, like $500 million, and it's worth double that. But and Tish James said, well, no, it's only worth $18 million because that's what the tax assessor says it's worth. If you just go on Zillow, go on Redfin, and look at what property cost in Palm Beach, Florida, the most expensive real estate in the world. Trump has 20 acres of the most prime real estate in the world. It's, I think, the only property that touches both the Atlantic Ocean and the intracoastal waterway. It's clearly worth at least $500 million, if not $1 billion or more. And to say that it's only worth $18 million, a tennis court at Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million. And Big Tish took Trump to trial in New York on this and got Arthur Engeron, that nut job trial attorney, to railroad President Trump, where it was a kangaroo court. There was no due process. Now Democrats want due process for Tren de Aragua terrorists and MS-13 gangbangers who beat women and traffic women and, rape kids. But, suddenly they care about due process, but they didn't care about due process for President Trump. So I would say to Big Tish, when I warned her several months ago that we're going to put her fat ass in prison, I think that's actually going to come true.
So you believe that the DOJ is going to pick up these charges, and they're going to potentially put Big Tish on a prison diet. You began this by talking about prison diets, and you could potentially get that here. Maybe it would be a good thing. We're not sure, but you're saying that it could happen.
We'll either have to put her on a prison diet, or we're going to have to increase the Federal Bureau of Prisons food budget. So one of the two. But I would say to Big Tish, if you lied on your mortgage application, that's mortgage fraud. You're very familiar with the fraud statutes because you brought your bogus fraud case against Trump to try to derail his presidential campaign and bankrupt him. They have Big Tish dead to rights on this. And so nobody's above the law. And
Right.
If they don't indict Big Tish for this, they're giving her amnesty. So I don't think the Trump administration is going to give her amnesty. So I think they're going to indict her.
That's all for today. Thank you. If you want global news to keep you up to date on any new developments, please subscribe our channel and forward our content with your friends on social media and email. Thank you very much for keep supporting me. Stay safe. Be blessed. Namaste.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.